Invader Zim. To many people, myself included, it was a very interesting cartoon from our childhoods that honestly was a very, very good show. It had moments I didn't like. I think, the poop jokes were a little bit overdone and that kind of thing. But all being said, it was a really good show, especially for the time. It's sad that it ended so soon, and I'm happy that's not even really a cult favorite anymore. It's just people like it now. The Enter the Florpus movie was good. I hear the comics are good, that I've yet to read them personally. And honestly, I'd love to see more stuff coming out of it, but I don't know when that's ever going to happen, if ever. But all this to be said is that I've noticed something that was kind of funny. You see, in the original series, in case anyone knows, Zim was the protagonist, as in we followed him most of all. But as it turns, he was the villain of the story, and Dib was much closer to the hero, just that we didn't follow him. And for a lot of time, if you looked up online, that kind of thing, there'd be stuff people saying about how, Dib was the real hero all along. Which I always thought was kind of obvious, even as a kid. Like, of course he's supposed to be the good guy. Sure, he's not perfect, but he's obviously supposed to be the good guy. Like, if it was a more classical show, or even if the show was framed just like a normal show is, then Dib would have been the main character, and Zim would have been just the antagonist. Just that the TV show flipped around who got the most screen time. But all this to say is that overall, Dib was always supposed to be kind of the hero to some extent of the show. And then Enter the Florpus came out. And the comics have, I hear, also kind of done this trend where Dib has kind of switched to not just being the hero, but the main character. He's the one we follow the most. Enter the Florpus is a pretty easy example of this, as really, Zim shows up a fair bit. He's the main driving force in the plot, don't get me wrong, but he tons of things from his perspective. But yet, it's clear that Dib has taken over his position as main character. And honestly, I don't actually mind this change. As long as Zim gets plenty of screen time on his own, and he's always an active villain, then I actually don't mind Dib being the main character, as I do like some of the things you can play with it. Although I probably would prefer it to be a bit more of an even split. However, all this to lead up to the point that some people are now questioning if Dib was ever really a hero. Was he in fact just as bad as Zim? Well, I'm here to put those rumors to rest. No, Dib is definitely the hero of the story. And I mean this as a general term. I'm sure you can find one episode or one comic where he might not have been perfectly good, but I'm talking as an overall character, both in his goals and his objectives, and just why he's doing things. Dib is the good guy, and he's a hero. First thing we have to establish, though, Zim is bad. I don't see anyone questioning this, but Zim is definitely the bad guy. Like, he's just evil. He wants to kill, slave, conquer, whatever, Earth. And honestly, that's pretty evil. He's not doing it for any good motivations. Like, at all. I mean, even when he gets basically rejected by the tallest completely at the end of Florpus, he's still just going to conquer the Earth for himself now. So, realistically, it's not even like he was forced into it. At least not as much as you could justify that. So, all this to say, Zim is bad. Now, Dib opposes Zim, so that already puts him on a good karmic scale, at least somewhat. However, people have questioned, no one's really denying that Dib is doing the right thing by trying to stop Zim. No one's saying Zim is really the good guy. However, people are arguing that Dib's reasonings for stopping Zim are selfish, or the more accurate, he doesn't actually care about people, he just wants to fight Zim because of ego, and doesn't actually care about being the good guy. Well, I'm here to explain why that's false. Mainly because why, if he was just self-centered, would he care so much about fighting Zim? Like, think about it. I mean, what's there to prove that you've managed to beat the alien equivalent of a toddler, that's someone that was rejected by their own civilization? And Dib is perfectly aware of this information. He is well aware that Zim is not the ultimate galactic conqueror, or he's just a low rank and file who the tallest can't get rid of. Now, Dib isn't initially aware of this, but he most certainly is by the end of the series, or at least so far. He's very aware of this information. And he probably is well aware that the Urkin Empire isn't directly planning to conquer Earth. Zib is really the only one trying and occasionally attack. So realistically, it's not like he has anything to prove. So he can't really be trying to gain some kind of galactic honor by beating this mighty invader, because realistically I don't think anyone would care. And that's another interesting question, is that, this is gonna sound weird, but I'm gonna explain why this truly shows that Dib is the hero. Now that was just a side point, this is my main point, is that fundamentally, there is no real reward he's getting for doing any of this. I mean, realistically, think about it. No one either believes him or is dismissal of his claims, and not just because he's crazy. I mean, occasionally he does sound a bit weird, especially early on in the series. But it's not like he's shown Zim on the world stage and they don't really believe him or care. I mean, Dib has to know by just experience that they don't care about him. Humanity doesn't care about him. His sister is, occasionally, especially later on, they seem to be better at, liking each other. But for most of the time, or at least some of it, they have not the best relationship. I mean, his father is distant, cold, and is both an incredible genius, but yet can't recognize something so obviously in front of him. And just the general mass of humanity absolutely despises him. Like, they despise him, anyone who knows him. And sure, he's a bit weird or antisocial, I'm not pretending he isn't, but think about how that has to be for him. There is not more or less a single human, outside of maybe his sister and maybe his father, who actually care about him. And even them aren't going to give him some kind of recognition for being the great hero who saved humanity countless times. No one cares. No one cares about Dib, and humanity in this universe is, for the most part, horrible, disgusting, and dumber than even our world, and that's saying something. There is no form of galactic honor he's going to get from them. It's not like they're going to shower him with praise, despite how much Dib may occasionally think it. Fundamentally, the only reason he would have to try so hard to protect the Earth is because he just, on some level, cares about people. Because think about it, he's smart enough. If he wanted to just get out of the way, he could easily get a spaceship, probably even convince his father and sister, if he tried hard enough, to get off the planet, maybe. Or if he didn't care about anyone, like some people suggest, he would just go himself, let Zim do whatever. Or not even fight Zim. Why care what Zim does? But yet he does. Because he wants to protect the Earth, he wants to save humans. Even if they don't care about him back, he wants to do the right thing. And I'm not suggesting that Dib is some kind of selfless hero. He has his flaws, he's selfish at points, and is definitely a bit weird at points in multiple ways, but overall, he's trying to do the right thing, even if I don't even know if he fully recognizes it. But then again, he always calls himself the Defender of Earth. Like, that has to mean something. Like, why would he call himself that if he didn't truly believe it on some level? And he's not really done anything. I mean, think of all the different ways he could have tried, maybe, to stop Zim, or just do certain things. And once again, no one in the world is going to ever thank him for it. His father will always dismiss his claims, his sister will always pick on him. The only person who occasionally gave him any kind of, care about what he did often was Tak, and she tried to kill him and humanity. So, realistically, he has nothing in this world. But yet he still defends it. He still cares about his home and the people who don't like him back always. And realistically, is there nothing more... it's one of the most heroic things in the world to ask of someone to defend a world, to defend the people who don't care about you, who would probably prefer you die. But yet, you still stand your ground, because it's still somehow the right thing to do. And honestly, for a 12-year-old... that's pretty heroic. That's honestly could put you up in some of the greatest tiers of fictional heroes. Just because even other heroes usually get praise and affirmation. Superheroes are showered with praise and attention. Action heroes are praised by the government and given medals. What has Dib gotten? Nothing. No one's given him anything. And yet he's done a task that even some of those guys would struggle to complete. And realistically, does that not make him a great hero, and someone who definitely deserves the title of Hero of Invader Zim? Anyway, that's my video. Hope you enjoy, and leave your opinions in the comments. Do you think Dib is really the hero of Invader Zim? Like, truly a hero? Or you think he's more just gray on gray morality? Either way, comment below, and I'll see you next time. Yeah? Hey, why don't you hit that sub button? You're gonna become a subscriber. Get to see my content quicker. Wouldn't that be nice? I bet so.